Hello everybody, welcome to Peculiar Adventures Podcast. This week we're going to be discussing the topic of licensed games. I'm here with my guest, Nate.
How's it going?
And my co-host, Ali.
Hello everyone.
My name is Shane. And Nate, was there something you'd like to tell everybody about yourself?
Just as a quick intro, I guess. I'm a recent film school graduate from Kent State in Ohio. Yep, the one and only with Gun Girl.
Oh, is that the same place?
What's
Same
the
school.
Gun Girl?
I was in the same. I was in the same like journalism school as her, and it was something. Let me tell you. Outside of that, I'm not doing too much. Just trying to start making my own content right now. But yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think we're both still stuck on the fact that you went to school.
Yeah. It was
All right.
kind of surreal. I had a friend that was going to do her senior project as an interview with her, and she had to scrap the whole thing. Supposedly it was that bad.
I can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, so when I say licensed games, what we're referring to is existing licenses that need to be obtained to make a game. So that could be anything from a comic book, like Marvel and DC games, or the Lord of the Rings film series, or the Lord of the Rings book series, which are two different licensings. Or even just, I guess, franchises that are created because of games.
Multimedia franchises.
Yeah. So, one example I can think of that's very recent that just occurred is they made the shift from Gears of War to just Gears because they wanted to create it as a franchise instead of just one single game series. So that because they're making the Gears Tactics game, which is like an XCOM-like game, they have their phone game, the Funko Pop one. And then they have, the main Gears series. So I guess Gears is the shooter, and then Gears of War. It's either Gears of War is the franchise, or something like that. But
I wonder if they had to drop the of War specifically for the Funko license.
Yeah, I mean,
they might have now wanted to. Sell a game with that in it.
I think what they wanted to do is they wanted to name the entire franchise Gears of War, and then they just have Gears in front of whatever it is. So, the number signifies it's the shooter, and then, Gears Pop is, the mobile game, that kind of thing. So that's because they wanted to franchise out and everything. So that's why they dropped the of War for Gears 5, because Gears of War 4 is Gears of War 4. It has the of War.
When you're applying that to, a lot of different products, it's just a lot easier and quicker to say and identify something as Gears than saying out the whole phrase of Gears of War.
Yeah,
especially since people colloquially do that anyways. Most people would say. I feel like when I heard you talk about Gears, you would just say Gears 4, Gears 3.
It's just natural to shorten it that.
Yeah, so they kind of just capitalized on that for sure. I mean,
there's so many of Wars as well, like Dawn of War. And
Yeah, fair enough. So the first topic I wanted to hit on, though, is I wanted to hit on, movie games. Games that were made specifically because a movie was made, and a lot of those games exist in the realm of, hey, we could just make some extra money by having some random grandmas be like, oh, my grandson likes the video games, and this is a nice Disney movie, so they just go grab the movie and give it to him.
Incredibles, Rise of the Underminer.
Oh yeah, I did actually play that game.
Oh, I loved that game.
It was the only expansion to the story for
the
longest time.
Literally.
Yeah, I did
for a solid
that.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a direct sequel to the movie?
Yeah, it picked up right after, which is funnily enough also where the first half of the movie picks up.
Yeah, I remember that. And it brings me to one of the most famous ones I can think of is Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Oh man!
Where they just were let's make a SpongeBob game, and that one.
It was beat by beat, just the movie, for a large majority, wasn't it?
Battle for Bikini Bottom isn't movie related.
Was it not?
No, Battle for Bikini Bottom is Plankton has giant robots that are attacking everything, and you need to.
Oh,
it was like a Mario clone. Where it had you had to collect golden spatulas instead of stars.
Okay.
Yeah, I never played the SpongeBob movie game. I know that existed.
Yeah, I remember that coming out.
Yeah, so many movie games follow that formula where it's just they take the same story beats in the same order.
Yeah.
And if there's filling, it's entirely new, usually way worse content stuff because they don't have an existing set piece to base it on.
And they just build it around. I mean, Disney's probably done that a million times with certain things, and I know that. And they've been doing it for a long time too. Because you go back and you have it was Capcom,
Capcom developed all the Disney tie-in games on the NES, like SNES. Like,
Yeah, so
from
those early games.
DuckTales to Lion King to Chip and Dale. Like
Wow.
Capcom handled the Disney license for all of those.
So what are some like hidden gems within the trash pile that is movie to video game like made to make some money games? Because Battle for Bikini Bottom, I'd say, is one of them. I loved playing that game. When
It for sure has the cult following to make it. You see most of them from like pretty prolific designers now. Like THQ, I think, handled most of the license. From the good to bad quality. Like THQ had a spectrum of games that they made, because I think THQ did Battle for Bikini Bottom, or at least that's the logo that plays when I visualize the box in my mind.
Well, I know the remake is being made by THQ Nordic.
Yeah, and Nordic's one of the better sub studios in THQ.
Yeah.
And then Capcom, I think, because Capcom, such a prolific game designer, handling those licenses in the DuckTales, and like DuckTales especially is one of the best like NES games. I've heard really good things about Chip and Dale, but I've never actually played it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
they're remaking a lot of the Disney ones, right? Like we're getting a remaster of the Aladdin one, I know.
well, yeah, the what's the company? The company that did the Mega Man Legacy Collection, it did also a Disney. They called it the Disney. Was it Saturday Afternoon Collection or something, where they remastered a bunch of those games, which was the first time you ever saw those re-release, I believe, because I don't think they were on like Virtual Console or type of services because of the licensing nightmare.
Yeah.
So I think those ones are definitely stand out. I feel like one that a lot of people talk positively about is Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that was, just a movie licensed game, but people really enjoyed how that one in particular played compared to a lot of other licensed games that are usually just the most middling, worst quality games.
Yeah, it's made because they knew people would buy it just for the name.
Yeah.
And I think that as time has gone on and as video games have become more relevant and more popular, people have tried to franchise out more with that kind of stuff, where like now, I mean, you'll see video games that franchise out into other things. I mean, like, you can take Skylanders as a huge example. That's like a toy line built out of a video game, as opposed to like it used to be toy line built out of TV show.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, they did have a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right?
I didn't see
Just
it.
a little reminder.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie.
But just the example of taking the base of a video game and expanding it to other media.
I think that what's happening with that especially is mobile games.
Oh, absolutely.
Mobile games are getting really, really dipped into that. 'Cause, like, you're seeing, like I mentioned, there's Gears Pop, which is the Funko Pop one, which is essentially a toy line. But then you have like Final Fantasy, like tons of Japanese games,
Pokemon.
tons of them. Even Pokemon Go. Like tons of these things are all moving into being mobile games because like that's the most accessible franchise thing you can do because everybody has a phone.
Right.
Even Diablo tried to do it, and the fan base got real pissed. Because not even I don't think they would have been pissed if they announced it with Diablo 4, but because they're like this is the future of Diablo, and when the fans looked at that, they're like, no, they were pissed. So I'm trying to think of like a movie game I used to play when I was a kid. Like Battle for Bikini Bottom is probably the biggest one I can think of that was off of like a movie that was obviously just kind of, hey, let's just make a game off of this. I know there was a party game for SpongeBob too that some people liked.
They made a lot of those, but actually,
there's a million racing games for them.
Yeah, you made me think by saying the party game reminded me of. So I've always been a huge One Piece fan, and there were a bunch of like licensed One Piece games. Most of them were weird 3D like arena battlers.
Yeah.
But the one you saying party game reminded me of One Piece Pirates Carnival, which was a Mario Party with One Piece characters. Which I remember my cousin had. That game sold at a premium, unlike other licensed games, because that was a full $40 like. Usually licensed games you would see in used bins for sure for like single digits. Yeah. And often around that price even new.
That sounds so fun though.
It was cool. I remember it was the first time you got further than where the 4Kids English dub was at the time, because it's the only source of English dub Eneru. Or Enel.
Yeah, when it comes to that, I'm just thinking of like I know there was like a Wall-E video game I've never seen gameplay of.
I had a few, like I remember the Bionicle games, the Bionicle movie tie-in one, which I remember played awfully. It was like the format for all these were almost all like 3D platformers, but like this is like the GameCube early PS2 era where you had your high quality platformers from this era, like the Naughty Dog, like Jack games. A lot of the stuff Sony was doing, and of course what Nintendo's doing. But then you had this schlock, which was, for the most part, they're all super linear, or if they're 3D, they all have really bad, like, traversal or, like, combat mechanics.
I bet you 90% of licensed games are all just 3D platformers. Like, that is just the basic thing of, like...
It's the easiest thing to sell to kids, and that's mostly what these licensed games
it's just
do.
It's a collect-a-thon game where they're like, go find the thing in area that is recognizable, and the kid's like, I remember from movie, and then that's the whole point.
There was that, what was it, Shrek Super Slam or whatever?
Oh my
fighting
God.
game they had.
Yes.
Oh my, that was incredible.
So what
It was ahead of its time.
There was also,
it really was.
that makes me think of so two things. I was going to talk about Pac-Man Fever, which was when they tried to like push Pac-Man.
Was it the 3D adventure one?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, Pac-Man was one of the ones we actually didn't mention this on the last podcast we did about platformers.
Okay.
But we were talking about the mascot like craze, where they kind of had to have a mascot in platformers and everything. Mm-hmm. Well, Pac-Man tried to do it too, and that's what you're talking about.
Okay.
But they also tried to do it with their own Mario Party, where they did a Namco Mario Party. So it was like Hayachi, Astaroth, the flag waver from the racing game, I can't remember her name. Yeah, yeah.
My goodness.
And then like Miss Pac-Man. It was weird. Oh yeah, it was Tiger was a character, which is the alternate version of like Eddie from Tekken. That's like got an afro and like looks disco. Yeah. It was weird. It was a weird game. And when you're talking about like actually good games like that that are from like that Shrek one, I think of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings had I can't remember if it was the Twin Towers or if it was Return of the King, but a lot of people loved the Lord of the Rings movie games.
Yeah.
They liked the there was a Final Fantasy style Lord of the Rings RPG that I played. I can't remember what it was called. And a lot of stuff spawned out of Lord of the Rings as a movie franchise. Mm-hmm. That was really huge. And like Battle for Middle Earth was a great game.
I remember, yeah.
Which unfortunately, because of how the licensing works with that, like the licensing's gone for that. The only company I know that still makes Lord of the Rings games is like WB, because they're making the Shadow of Mordor games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that the whole situation with that is that the book and the movie have different licensing, because the people who own the licensing to the book and Tolkien's legacy essentially do not like Peter Jackson's films. So they kind of try to make everything separate, and they're very like petty about their licensing with things. I don't know if they've been better recently, but that's like an issue that existed a long time ago. So you'll actually see, I think the original Battle for Middle-earth game was like based on the book.
I think so. It had the full title of Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth. I'm not sure if that's an indicator of
the books are called, they're called The Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's the name of the book.
Wait, that's what I'm saying, because they have the full name, because I don't think, does Shadows of War and Shadows of Mordor, are they Lord of the Rings Shadow? Because I thought they were just advertised with their name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
don't know how they're handling the licensing now. I just know they had a lot of fights with it early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor isn't really based on the book. It's like actually extended fiction created on the universe.
They're a lot more like AU things, kind of like equivalent to some Star Wars games. I feel.
It reminds me of Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Where like Knights of the Old Republic is pretty much just a prequel to the original, to even the prequels that were eventually made.
Yeah.
So the official title is Middle-earth: Shadow of War.
Oh yeah.
So I'm assuming Middle-earth is
the books, or even
that,
just like not related to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think they have any movie reference characters in it at all.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. So.
But I'm not super engrossed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I only really know about like the issues that happened with Battle for Middle-earth specifically. Mm-hmm. But with Star Wars is a giant franchise. Star Wars, I grew up collecting Star Wars Legos.
Oh, yeah.
And Star Wars has always been a big name to bring people in with licenses. You've got the most recent game, which I know you've been playing, Nate.
I love it.
Which is, what's it called?
Star Wars Fallen Order, or Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, because as of currently, I believe the only company that has the licensing to make Star Wars games is specifically EA.
Yeah, but they had Respawn.
Yeah, they had
actually put this one together.
After making several statements about how people aren't interested in single player adventure experiences anymore, they finally caved.
Yeah.
After people got really pissed at the recreation of the Battlefront series.
Oh yeah.
Which I've never played them. People have told me that they're pretty decent games. The biggest issue anybody had with them was mostly how egregious they were with microtransactions.
Absolutely.
And content-wise,
Yeah, they just they gated all the content behind paywalls and pissed a ton of people off. In traditional EA fashion.
Yeah.
They gave you just enough of what you wanted, but not everything that you were asking for.
Yeah.
And so then that would be like the little carrot on the stick to be like, oh,
well, yeah,
come down this rabbit hole.
The drip feed process, where they're like, here's small amounts of content, maybe you want more, maybe you want it faster.
I played the first Battlefront for a decent amount of time, and like the gameplay and everything, it was great, but the features that were in the game just as
sparse.
So sparse.
Yeah. See, I love the Knights of the Old Republic series because I like old BioWare stuff. You know, like there was a point BioWare hit where like I wasn't as sour on Mass Effect 3 as a lot of people were. I still enjoyed the experience, and I wasn't like super annoyed at the ending. Of course,
it was all right.
I didn't finish the game until after they amended the ending, so I didn't see the original one.
Okay.
Where they didn't like include more details of like this happened because you made this choice.
Right.
But I mean, Andromeda was just like. If you go and look in the history of Andromeda's creation, it was a shit show. Mm-hmm. And, like, honestly, it's unfortunate because Mass Effect is a really cool universe and a cool franchise that I'd like to see extended more. I enjoy it a lot. But BioWare's been having issues recently. I mean, obviously, Anthem is the big one. Anthem was the one where they dropped it, and they... All of their production, I mean, it was released, all that stuff about, like, oh, it's that BioWare magic. You know, we just happened to somehow get it done after a crunch period. And it's like, how about you don't do that, though? Like, how about you actually... let your employees not have panic attacks and not be worked into exhaustion.
Yeah.
So, with the old Knights of the Old Republic games before, you know, they just made it an MMO, I liked those games a lot, and I had a ton of fun playing them, and those were, like, unique licensed games because they used the name, but they extended the lore, as opposed to, like, licensing games like, you know, the movie games, where it's just using the current lore.
A carbon copy.
They're a lot more like how Marvel's does their games currently, rather than like how they would in the previous generations, where like Spider-Man 2 came out, make a movie that make a game that adapts the plot of the movie and add some random gimmicks and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had on the Wii, I had Spider-Man 3 tie-in game, and it had, because it was on the Wii, they of course shoot her in the worst motion controls to try to like you would sling through the city, but you would do it with the worst like waggle controls, and it was not fun. And you pretty much just went through. They basically kind of made it go through all three of the Sam Raimi movies, kind of, because they had quests that were basically like doing the events of the previous game, and then it works up to do the stuff from Spider-Man 3. And then they had some side characters. Like I remember fighting the Lizard, who I don't think was in the... It's been a while since I've seen the Raimi.
The Lizard, no.
He was in Amazing, I know for sure.
He was in no Sam Raimi film.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi films, yeah.
So they did some stuff to kind of like make it a bit better than if it was straight... like adapt the movie.
Yeah,
but
usually they pull villains that weren't in the films because they need more villains.
More glasses, more content.
Because you'll have like the Scorpion.
Yeah,
it's either Scorpion or the Scorpion. I don't remember if there's a the. But then the Vulture will show up.
They usually toss an Electro.
Yeah, Electro shows. The Electro's
Mysterio if they're feeling fancy.
Yeah, they're just like, you're gonna have a boss fight with a bunch of smoke everywhere, and you're like, okay, that's fine. And I feel like the Wii especially was a big console for a lot of those, like...
Well, yeah, due to its popularity.
Yeah.
I have my Wii library set up with, like, pretty much first half all Nintendo games, then it's a section of third-party games, and then the rest are all the licensed games that my grandma or someone would buy me for years when they would just like, here, we'd get him this game for Christmas or birthday or something.
I want to get young Ollie this nice licensed game. It'll be a fun time.
And they were all the worst motion controls. Like those are why the Wii gets their bad name for motion controls.
Yeah.
Like
waggle the controller to do X. just
yeah,
always
I remember a really
things.
bad Pirates of the Caribbean 3 game, which had the worst waggle sword fights. Like this is after, like, Twilight Princess was a launch game for the Wii, and that had better sword fighting than this game.
And what I think is interesting is one of the weirdest licensed games to me is still just the fact that Kingdom Hearts exists.
Right.
Like somebody was like, let's take Square Enix and just be like, let's just take Nintendo licensed products and just slam them together into this game. And it turned out to be something people absolutely love. Oh, not Nintendo.
Disney.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I would love to see the Square Enix,
Nintendo,
the Square Enix Nintendo collaboration that isn't Mario Hoops
3 on 3.
That
was a great game.
But yeah, Kingdom Hearts is like the weird one, because it doesn't fit like a licensed game as far as like what we think of as bad movie games, but it is definitely caused by the marriage of two IP licenses.
Yeah.
That you see, like, it's just so interesting how like that particular game came about and like the licensing nightmare that it still had to fight even with the games being out.
Right.
Like they can't have the Tarzan world anymore after the first game because the estate that handles the Tarzan like property, the books and everything, I forget the name of the writer, but they did not want it after the first game, and so they had to. But plot happened in it because it's Kingdom Hearts, and the plot happens everywhere.
Yeah.
So they had to like retcon that in weird ways.
Yeah, they have that licensing nightmare that exists.
It does have cool things, though. I like how the side Kingdom Hearts games drive stuff from weird, kind of like forgotten about pieces of like Disney, like. I'm gonna say lore, but that's absolutely not the right word.
Disney history.
Like Birth by Sleep having an entire Three Musketeers world where they have like the Mickey, Donald, Goofy Three Musketeers, and how Kingdom Hearts sort of subverts the normal licensing like problem by actually, you know, the IP holders sort of work together to try to make this thing, and they give them what they need really. And they're willing to go into the nitty gritty of like weird deep cuts of. Of course, they never go too deep. They never go Song of the South deep.
Disney.
Well, that's the part. That's part of Disney's history that they want to pretend it never happened instead of just
Revisionist.
Yeah, the revisionist part.
Well, yeah, because you have like Dumbo, where they're willing to revisit Dumbo, and then they're just like, yeah, but you remember the Jim Crows didn't happen,
right?
We're just gonna remove those.
If they bring Dumbo, he's only as a summon, so they don't need to justify a Dumbo world and possibly include it.
Yeah, pretty much. But they're not gonna go like. Even have they done Fantasia at all with it?
Yeah, they have Yen Sid, which takes place in the Fantasia Tower, and they reference Mickey as the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and they have the brooms and stuff. Yeah,
okay.
They do Fantasia.
I mean, Ben, are you ready for the next Kingdom Hearts game that references all of the live action?
I mean, you will see a Kingdom Hearts game that has Marvel and Star Wars in it.
Yeah, eventually.
That's strange.
You will like. I'm honestly surprised they didn't do it for 3, but I feel like they're definitely gonna do it.
It was already like an absolute mindfuck to me to be like, "There's a Pirates of the Caribbean." Oh yeah, that is Disney. Because like I never associate that as a Disney product.
That's I think the part that's more like a normal license game because the other ones are weird where you kind of do the plot, kind of don't in the normal Disney worlds. But in the Pirates of the Caribbean, you straight up do the plot. When I got to the Pirates world in Kingdom Hearts 3, it reminded me of exactly what the plot of Pirates 3 was. Yeah. Because I had not seen that movie since I was a kid.
Yeah, God,
and it did the plot like exactly pretty much just with this anime kid is Donald and Goofy here.
Hey, we're here. Also, the plot of the movie,
and also the edgy villains just appear and mess things up.
They're just like, "Hey, we're in the world. Guess what? Plot point," and then they leave.
Yeah,
we're just gonna talk for a second. Leave. All right, now you can continue watching this movie. Yeah, that is a weird thing that they especially did with Kingdom Hearts 3. Where they were just kind of like,
they had the Frozen world where they had the entirety of Let It Go play.
Yep. Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Oh jeez. Yeah, I know people really, really love the new Spider-Man game, and that's another license game that people really love. And then Ultimate Alliance, people really wanted to get brought back, which was like a Marvel.
Isn't there another one in the works or something?
It's out, yeah.
It's out now.
The Switch,
okay, yeah.
The Black Order.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot different than the original Ultimate Alliance, though, isn't it?
It looked gameplay-wise like them, just with a lot of characters
from newer, yeah.
Gotcha.
And they're releasing, like, because they announced just at the Game Awards, the DLC packs with people like Gambit, Cable, stuff like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I know that there's like you have the weird ones that are licensed to like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, where they have their own games. Like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon both kind of fought each other. I think Nickelodeon went a little bit harder with it, with having like licensed games, because SpongeBob was like the big one. Like Cartoon Network doesn't really have a SpongeBob.
The biggest ones I can think of are I remember seeing a lot of Ben 10 games.
Yeah.
When Ben 10 was really big and coming out. I'm trying to think of another property that even comes close
Have they done anything like Adventure Time or?
They've done
Adventure Time, yeah.
Okay. Steven Universe has a game or two.
Yeah.
Adventure Time was actually recently announced, or no, that they have characters in Brawlhalla.
Okay.
Yeah, they have crossovers with Brawlhalla. And Steven Universe just had crossovers with Brawlhalla. Mm-hmm. So I guess Cartoon Network's just working with Brawlhalla to like have a bunch of crossovers with their characters.
Yeah, I think now like the licensed games used to be on the main consoles, I remember, but I think there's also a huge set of them on handheld devices, or at least less so with the Switch now. But I mean, I remember seeing like the Adventure Time game on DS and 3DS.
Yeah,
there was a lot of that. There was a lot of like, God, I remember I had an Aladdin game on the Game Boy.
Yep.
I had Probably a couple other like movie. They had a Godzilla game on the Game Boy. Just a lot of licensed games on the Game Boy back when they were just like, hey, just make this quick thing, slap the licensing on it, and you're good.
Yeah, I remember Taking the Power of Juju on my Game Boy SP. I know there were more.
Because that one's weird though, because Attack on the Power of Juju was developed simultaneously with the game though.
Right, yeah. And then Nickelodeon just kind of like dug its fangs in.
Yeah, because they were trying to make like a multimedia franchise right off the bat instead of expanding something.
Yeah.
Same thing with Viva Pinata and Rare, where Microsoft was like, give us a franchise. And we were talking earlier about it, but Viva Pinata is weird because the show is nothing like the game, because the game is like, essentially you're a zookeeper.
Right.
You have your garden and you have your piñatas and you're taking care of them.
Right.
And the show, all of the piñatas are like sentient talking people on an island that are like fighting off an evil menace. And it's like, okay. And then when Trouble in Paradise, which was like the sequel to Viva Pinata, came out, apparently it seemed like they tried to interweave this show a little bit more. So like the villain from the show showed up and like had like monologuing and stuff, but they still couldn't have the characters from the show show up because they're all talking piñatas.
Right.
And that breaks the idea of piñatas just being animals in like your little garden zoo. Yeah, so it was this weird like just disconnect between the two, where I'm curious like in the development if one person was like, make a show with these character designs, and then to Rare they're like, make a game with these character designs,
right?
And Rare just took it in a whole different direction.
They didn't talk at all.
From the little blurb I saw of it, because this was when shortly after, I mean maybe not shortly after, but it was the first big project after the Microsoft acquisition of Rare, and Microsoft pretty much went to them with like, okay, we got Rare, who's known for these franchises on Nintendo platforms. You're going to make a franchise for us, but it's not going to play anything like those. So they made Viva Pinata, and they were separate, and then they tried to merge them with the second game, and obviously the messy results.
Yeah, I mean, like, people, at least from my experience, they like the second game, because again, it was just the same thing. It was just more stuff. It's just, they just threw that little extra narrative thing on there a little bit, where they're like, we'll try to interweave this with the show, but... Yeah, and I think it was 4 kids that made the TV show. Yeah,
which is...
so weird.
A death knell, pretty much. It is interesting because now I think of it, they had previously tried to make a multimedia franchise out of an existing Rare game, which was when they made the Donkey Kong Country TV series.
Oh God!
Yes.
Wait, is that the one with the song about how love is like a banana or love is like a golden banana?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would collect the crystal coconuts. That was like that was the MacGuffin of everything.
That was the power up and not the golden bananas that they would use in Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah, and then like because that had King K. Rool in it, right?
I believe so.
As the villain, yeah, because that was specific to the Rareware games. Because after the Rareware games, they ditched King K. Rool as a villain, right?
No, he was in the King of Swing games, which were the Game Boy and DS ones. Okay. But he wasn't in the Retro Studios games. He wasn't in Returns nor Tropical Freeze.
Yeah.
They made their own villains for those.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, and I think that's because of like how much Rareware worked on it. Because I remember like what was it? The original creator of King K. Rool had no idea he was going to be in Smash.
Yeah.
And so he was just like really hyped when they announced him in Smash, and he's like, he looks perfect. I think he said he would have made his design a little bit less stupid looking if he knew that the character was going to be used in the future, but I don't remember specifically what it was that he said, but that is funny. And that's also the interesting thing of like a franchise like changing who owns it. So you have something like both Halo and Gears of War, which were like the flagship Microsoft series, went through this where like Epic was the game designer for the first 4 Gears games. Because everybody hated the 4th one, so nobody talks about it. I'm not talking about Gears 4. I'm talking about Judgment.
Yeah.
That was
the prequel. That was all about Baird.
Yeah. Everybody kind of just hated that one, and they don't really talk about it. But those 4 were made, and then Halos 1 through 3 and Halo Reach were made by Bungie. Yeah. And then both of them moved on, and they just gave it to another company, which I think might have been like half of the original studio stayed to work on it, and the other half went to
At least for 343, I know that was the case, where it was made of the higher-ups from Bungie that wanted to stay with Microsoft. They made 343
to
handle the
I know that, like, one of the original people who worked on Gears of War for the first 3 games is still there, but Cliffy B left.
Completely.
Instead of saying his last name, I'm just going to say B. Yeah. Blazinski, I think.
Blazinski, yeah.
But Cliffy B left, and so those games are like under new developers they're still Microsoft franchises, so they're still like the flagships of those. Halo hasn't really gotten that treatment where they're trying to expand it to more kind of like more things. It's really just been
There was that.
the animation.
Yeah.
The series of animations
Oh,
that
yeah.
for forever.
They had a live action like short too.
Yeah.
Was
it one of those franchises that had a movie in development hell for a long time?
Yeah,
Because
and
I
it
know
just
there are
never
a
worked
lot
out.
of those game movies that still haven't surfaced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Halo's was one of the big ones, and it's always funny too to look back and look at like failed ones.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of like failed games.
Assassin's Creed.
That's not a failure. Assassin's Creed makes a ton of money for them.
They
Oh,
make
the
money-
movie,
Yeah, the
actually,
movie.
yeah.
I'm saying specifically.
I never saw it.
It was not good. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. It had Mysterio.
It did have
So
Mysterio.
did Prince of Persia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, that's not the
That's-
same movie.
No,
In my
yeah.
in my head, that's literally the same movie.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like a random.
Now I'm curious. Is
Jake Gyllenhaal character?
in
I
there?
don't think he was in. It was oh, what's his name? Not Jude Law. Was it Jude Law?
That
In
was
Assassin's
oh
Creed?
yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Actually,
Looking at your phone background, I've realized that we didn't talk about Naruto as a licensed
Yeah.
franchise, which is like
Yeah.
I've had a
absolutely-
lot of those across different systems.
Oh god, they've had a ton of them. I mean, they have the Shonen Jump game recently. That's like all the Shonen Jump characters.
Jump Force.
Yeah, Jump
Yeah.
Force. And recently, I think they're trying to jump into
Jump
My Hero
Force.
Academia as a series. But
Of course.
Naruto for a long time. Like I played a bunch of Naruto games
All
when I
of
was
those
younger.
fighting games. Yeah.
What it
It was Michael Fassbender, not
Michael
Yeah.
Fassbender. That's who it was.
what was the Naruto
Fact.
game?
Jeremy Irons in it too.
What was the Naruto game on the GameCube?
Clash of Ninja.
Clash of Ninja. Clash of
was a
Ninja
big
3.
That was the
one.
normal. 3 was when it was off the GameCube, I think.
No,
3
no.
was on the Wii, I believe.
I thought.
Well, it was on Japanese GameCubes, and the port was in English on the Wii. 2 was the last one on the GameCube that was English release.
Well, all I remember is playing an Ultimate Ninja on the GameCube. I mean, it's entirely possible I literally played the Japanese version because my friend was like, his family was from Japan. I just remember it having like up to 4 players where you had that weird thing where you would like press the Z button to switch who you were targeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who you'd walk towards.
Oh yeah.
I just remember every character had kunai, and it was like one of the most annoying things because
Yeah.
you'd have like 3 people throwing
Everyone
kunai
had that
at you.
projectile attack, and then everyone had their physical.
It was so much fun to play that
weapons.
though because that was like for me as a kid, it was the only fighting game out there that wasn't Smash that was available to be played with like 4 people and like have a crazy time just with friends.
Yeah.
And I loved doing that. That was like going back to that game. I don't know how good it is, but I loved playing it when I was younger.
I played a lot of that game. Me and my cousin were super into it. In both 2 on the GameCube, which was probably the one we played the most, and then 3 on the Wii, which I didn't like because it had forced-in motion controls. Because that was at the point in the anime when like Naruto and everyone had learned the Rasengan, and you had to like actually circle your. You had to like do quick circles.
It must have been 2 that I played then because
2 did have that mode, yeah.
The one that I played, I think the furthest like in the actual plot of the series character that was in it was like there was this skin for what was the dude with the giant sword?
Zabuza.
Zabuza. There was a skin for him that was the member of the Akatsuki. That's the shark dude.
Kisame. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a skin for him that was Kisame. That was like
That was probably 2 then.
that was the furthest in the anime that I can remember that
Yeah, because 2, I think, it came out around the time the tuning exams were the main arc, but not when the tuning exams finished, because there wasn't like Sarutobi in it or.
Right.
Yeah, as a kid, that was when I stopped. Was like after the tuning exams ended, I was just like, okay.
I mean, that's really the high point of Naruto. though.
I tell my friends once you get through the Sasuke retrieval arc, like you don't need to worry about.
Oh yeah, because after that it's all filler for 100 episodes. Then
Yeah,
it's Shippuden.
yeah. I went back and to try and like feel nostalgia. Watched I think through a good portion of like after that, but I'm not up to date with One Piece. I'm not up to date with Naruto. Shonen is just too much. I'm watching My Hero Academia. That's
They're
not
commitments.
for me. I watch JoJo and My Hero, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of JoJo, there are several JoJo fighting games that also exist.
Yeah,
Off of the licensing
across
of that.
various developers, some including like good Capcom games.
Yeah.
And then I think now there's, I think now it's like the Jump Force Studio or whatever, because I think they're the people who have made the most ones recently.
Those are an interesting one too because the JoJo games pull from JoJo as a whole, and because JoJo has been taking so long to come from being a manga to a anime, there's like a lot of characters in the JoJo games that haven't even been made into the anime yet. So you have like Stone Ocean and everything past that shows up that's currently in a manga form in the games. And it'll, like, people who don't know anything about the characters not in the animes, like, one of the Joe stars is, like, crippled, and, like, he can't actually, his legs don't work. And so, like, I didn't know that until I saw him in the fighting game, because I've only ever watched the animes. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess that's something I'll see in, like,
10 years.
10 years. Yeah. So...
even other anime licensed games, like I think the biggest one's probably Dragon Ball.
Yep.
With like, in my mind, I feel like it's hundreds. I don't know if that's actually true. There's hundreds of Dragon Ball licensed games, but I always felt like there was that many. Like all the different iterations of Budokai. Of course, you get really good ones like Fighter Z made by Arc System Works. They have the upcoming RPG getting made, the Kakarot. I forget the full name. I know Kakarot's in the title somewhere.
Yeah.
They have Xenosaga or Xenoverse. Yeah, Xenoverse. The big MMO kinda like game.
Well, yeah, it's also interesting because the creator of Dragon Ball has a video game franchise that he created, which is Dragon Quest.
He didn't create it; he just drew it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's the artist for it.
Yuji Horii is the lead developer.
That is the interesting thing to me is that like it's an artist who works on this video game franchise that's just a video game franchise, and then to my knowledge it has like branch off games like Rocket Slime and stuff like that. But
it's a huge media franchise in Japan, less so here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting to me when people use video games to expand the narrative of stuff. I mean, we talked about how that's pretty much what like Lord of the Rings has been doing because.
And Star Wars.
They've already adapted all of the books into movies, so they're like, this happened between these 2 points. We just kind of have that happen, but Star Wars has done a ton of that. I'm sure Disney's retconned most of it. I'm sure.
Rest in peace, Starkiller.
Yeah, and then there's also even franchises like what's interesting to me, I guess it's because Games Workshop used to be really like Warcraft, essentially, because it was originally worked on as a Warhammer RTS, and then they removed the licensing, and then they just were like, well, we're still going to make the game, so they made their own thing, and they made it Warcraft. Ever since then, and that's a huge series. It's a huge series based off of Warhammer, both for StarCraft and Warcraft. And so I think Games Workshop's a little bit pissed about that, and they're still very, very like, no, you can't have anything with using our stuff unless you have our direct licensing permission, right. And they're like super intense on like cracking down on anybody who does that, even like fan-made stuff.
Yeah, you had Vader, that whole fan-made. It was a series of shorts that Disney just completely got taken down.
Yeah, for Star Wars. Yeah, so I think Games Workshop has been leaning away from that now because there is like people are releasing like shorts for Warhammer like lore stuff, and they're a little bit better on that, but they've kind of been starting to lean into that with Warhammer a little bit because the Dawn of War series created a new Space Marine chapter that was just for the game, and you can actually get like a model for the chapter master from that game playable in the tabletop, which isn't like something that you'd expect to get out of a video game. And then you also have stuff like Warhammer Fantasy was trashed. It was done. They got finished with that universe, and they created the Sigmar universe. And then because of the games that are using the Warhammer Fantasy licensing, they're using that universe. The popularity of the universe has resurged massively. And so now they've actually announced recently that they're going to be starting up a new Warhammer Fantasy tabletop game, which because of how like Total Warhammer and Vermintide and Mordheim and other games have really like brought that back into it. Yeah. And so it's interesting for me to see kind of like lost IPs, lost properties brought back and created into something that becomes popular again. For instance, with Kid Icarus, where Kid Icarus was dead for so long, and then when they added Pit to Smash, it was kind of like, oh hey, we have a resurgence of interest in this character. Let's make a new game with them. Yeah. And you revitalize a series by doing it with something like that. And then everybody hopes that happens with Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah. Well, you kind of need it, at least in the case of Kid Icarus, it wouldn't have worked if Sakurai didn't want it so bad. Yeah. Because Sakurai, like, took pretty much the Smash team, like, his own team, to make Kid Icarus Uprising. And that really made it so phenomenal, and why people love it, because it has Sakurai's sort of, like, brand of perfectionism in the game, and the amount of content and collectibles and just stuff there is to do in the game. It has all the Sakurai, like, flair that people love from Smash Bros.
Well, I also think Fire Emblem would not have gotten more relevant in America if Marth and Roy didn't show up inside of Melee. And
oh, for sure. Like there's two key points of the Fire Emblem fandom like resurgence in the West. One is bringing them into Smash, so people would know who they were, get attached to them for how they, were in that game, intrigued by them, such that after that point they actually started bringing over the Fire Emblem games they were working on at the time. And then when Awakening happened, that was the huge the
boom.
Yeah,
inside of Western popularity with the game. Yeah, and that's interesting to me. I'm trying to think of a property that was made in an attempt to revitalize a series but failed. And I can't think of one right now. I know they just recently remade the Ghostbusters video game. Like an HD remaster of that.
Yeah, remaster.
And like they've been doing that, like Medieval just got an HD remaster, so they're taking old properties and they're trying to revitalize them in that sense. They have a new Ghostbusters movie coming out at some point. I don't really care that much about the Ghostbusters license at this point.
It just feels like you're beating a dead horse. Like,
yeah, that's just money. They like money.
Yeah, that's the hard part with licensing stuff, because when it hits right and people there is an audience for it, then you'll see the resurgence of the IP. When you don't, you're beating a dead horse. You're making something,
right.
Which I think was why a lot of licensed games in the previous generations failed, because they were just beating a dead horse.
Case in point, just 2 weeks ago we had the Playmobil movie.
That's what?
The Playmobil movie. You didn't hear about it?
No.
Yeah, that was a legitimate thing that happened. We had it for a week. They permanently sold tickets at $5 because they made it that cheap. But it's literally Lego
There was
Movie
a
2.
Playmobil movie?
That was the Playmobil movie.
I didn't even hear anything about this.
Daniel Radcliffe was in it.
Daniel Radcliffe? What?
Yeah, I'm telling you. There's an example of an attempt that just completely fell on its face.
You take a Harry Potter and you put it in a series, and I haven't even seen a friggin' ad for it.
Right.
Like, I like Daniel Radcliffe for a lot of other roles that he's done, obviously, but that's what he's most well known for. And you assume it when you, and obviously that's why they hired him. They're just like, let's get famous actors so we
star
can
power.
Yeah, let's get some star power in here. But the Lego movies have been massively successful. I'm sure that's what inspired it. But
absolutely.
I haven't heard a single person talk about Playmobil since I was 10.
There's no chance that this movie comes out and then all of a sudden you see a spike in Playmobil sales. Yeah. That's not going to happen.
That's what they want.
Yeah, that's the goal. But
that's the goal.
We can talk about Lego, because Lego as a franchise, not only did they move from toys to making TV shows, they started creating TV shows to sell their toys.
Absolutely.
And that's what Transformers and He-Man and a lot of the 80s cartoons were meant for, was they were supposed to sell toys.
G.I. Joe.
But Lego was an already established specific toy line,
right?
And then they were just they were so popular that they take other people's IPs, smash them into their IP, and then sell it as a game, like Lego Star Wars, and then
Lego Indiana Jones. There's
Batman.
infinite Lego series.
And then suddenly they're thinking, okay, let's make TV series themed in Legos.
Yep.
And now you had Legends of Chima. Ninjago is the really popular one. They had a Ninjago movie.
Yep.
And it's so weird to me because, normally it was Lego is making other people's IPs into their product, and then suddenly it was, now Lego has its own independent things, and it's okay. I think Legends of Chima kind of failed. I think that one
I haven't even heard of that, so
it
I
hasn't
presumed
picked
it
up really.
Yeah, well, the series doesn't go anymore. But I think Ninjago was the really, really popular one because it got its movie and everything.
Right.
It's funny, too, because the plots of the series is, the themes of them is, that's kind of interesting. But I hate the visual of just all the characters being Legos. I hate it. It's so annoying.
I thought it was real interesting with how they were able to pull it off in the Lego movie.
So, no, the Lego movie is great. The Lego movie is fine, but with these TV series, it's
when the point of it is not that they are Legos.
It's literally trying to just sell Legos. That's all it's doing. Yeah, it's so weird. God, I loved the Lego Star Wars series when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. I remember playing, I think it was the Complete Saga on the DS when they had that Bounty Hunter multiplayer mode. Oh my god. You spent so much time on
it. Back before you got updates on games through the internet, I remember I would reserving a video game left you with the chance to get a copy with tons of glitches. And I remember because my friend reserved a copy of Star Wars Battlefront 2, and then whenever he would play it, whenever you would play as Count Dooku, his cape was like half of it would hang off the bottom of the other half of the cape, and it would just glitch around and fling around everywhere. And he's just like, he wanted to get reserve copies of games because he wanted stupid glitches to exist in his games.
He wanted the early builds that made it onto the disc somehow.
That's pretty much. It was... Yeah, before they were able to like look at it and be like, oh, let's send this other copies of these discs with some fixes.
Let's patch that real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Now that you have constantly patching stuff, really, you can experience a game as it was released by not connecting it to online.
Mm-hmm. And some games do have the ability to version like reset back to an earlier
not a ton of them though that I know of.
No,
most things have permanently updates to the point where like there's really just the release version and whatever the currently updated version is, and you can't really go in between.
Yeah, it usually depends on how much of a server kind of game it is.
Right. Games as a service, for sure, absolutely.
Well, yeah, if you can't have server incompatibility, like that messes with a lot of things.
Yeah, because I know that's a huge thing with multiplayer games where people are like, remember this patch? Yeah. You can't really go and do that.
Right.
I mean, even, that's why the only thing that exists for WoW is like WoW Vanilla, because it was the first WoW. You can't really have like all of these random patches of these random updates throughout the entire series like come out as their own version. But and again, you need to keep changing things if you have a game that you're not making a sequel to. It's just a continued game because you need people to maintain interest. And you know who is getting real into the idea of having a franchise and having all these games and trying to expand their universe into everything? Riot Games.
Yeah.
Riot Games is going real hard for it right now. They've got a fighting game on the way. They've got, you said a platform, like a Metroidvania?
I believe it was a platformer. I forget if the Metroidvania was just kind of speculation on it.
It's supposed to be an Echo game.
I forget it had a quirky little title.
That sounds cool. I didn't even know
and then there's like the... you
got the shooter.
You have the shooter, you have the Gangplank... No, I don't think Gangplank's in it. I think the whole thing is it's during the period of time where everybody thought he was dead.
Yeah, I think that's the plot.
Yeah, and that's the plot point it's during. I don't know what the gameplay is.
Convergence is the name of the one starring Echo.
Yeah.
That's Convergence with the E is a / for some reason.
Gotcha.
And they say it's a action platformer game, so that reads like a Metroidvania to me.
Yeah, because they go into card games.
Yeah,
Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah, and obviously they did the battle auto battler.
Yeah, TFT.
Because they refuse to use any term that's ever existed within Dota. So it's like it's just like, it can't be our auto chess game.
No, it's an auto battler.
It's an auto battler, and that's like the same thing with MOBA. It's like, we can't be a Dota we have to be a MOBA.
Yeah.
Which I mean, have you ever dissected that phrase? Because it's really funny.
Massive online battle arena.
Everything is a massive online battle arena.
Yeah.
It's multiplayer online battle arena, I think.
Yeah.
But still, everything is literally a multiplayer online battle arena. It means nothing.
Any game where you put people in a lobby or a...
Quake.
Yeah.
Quake is a MOBA.
Yeah.
The original MOBA.
So that was just kind of like them trying to differentiate themselves. And, that they've achieved it. Like, Dota kind of tried to expand itself beyond... right now it has Underlords, so it's doing it a little bit, but it tried to do it with Artifact, where they tried to do a card game, but they handled it very, very poorly. It was such a mismatch of ideas where they're like, let's have it be a card game online, but let's not have it so that Hearthstone remedies the issue where it's not a trading card game. It's just a card game.
Right.
And pretty much Magic Arena did the same thing. There's no trading function. And what you do with that when you make that choice is there is no online store. There's no online storefront. There's no online market that can be abused. And so they avoid doing that, and they avoid having people, try and make money off of it. In that sense, you can still make money by selling accounts and stuff. That's always going to exist. But what they tried to do was they tried to make Artifact more like a physical card game online, where you do have trading and you do have a secondary market. And they tried to make it so that, like, you treated it like a normal card game. You had to buy into drafts. You had to buy into everything. They tried to do it kind of like how Magic Online is. Magic Online's what they're called, right?
The new one or the...
No, the older one.
It's Magic Online.
Magic Online, okay. And so the issue with that is they made a buy-in. They shouldn't have made a buy-in. If you're going to use that market strategy, you need the game to be free to play.
Right.
You can't have it have a buy-in. And because it had a buy-in, people didn't play it because they didn't want to buy a game and then have to spend more money on something.
Right.
And that's the issue that you have, is that a lot of people are very, very turned off to the idea of microtransactions, when they already have to purchase the game.
Right.
When you have something like Apex Legends, when you have something like League of Legends, where there's tons of microtransactions in the game,
but it's free to download.
But it's free to download, it's free to play.
Right.
People aren't as averse to spending money in it. Where you have something like Artifact, where it's like pay $20 for the game, then pay more money to get the cards. People don't want to do that.
Right.
And so it wasn't as popular on launch as they expected. And because it wasn't as popular on launch and it didn't have the longevity they expected, they just entirely abandoned it. It took them like a month to make a balance patch, and that's all they ever did. They were like, yeah, we're going to have expansions. They never released an expansion.
That's rough.
They pretty much announced that they were just, like, working on the game, and it was going to take a while, and that's it. And it's unfortunate, because it was a cool idea. I mean, it was in part created by the creator of Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. And so, like, there was a lot going for it, but, again, it was just handled awfully. But yeah, like, Dota hasn't succeeded quite as much in trying to, like, expand itself more. I do like Dota's universe, so I would like to see that, but the best way they can do it right now is with Underlords. But Riot is going hard with it.
Yep, they've even got, Arcane that they're pumping out now, that animated series.
Yeah, and eventually...
It's just, they're just gonna keep growing.
It's funny when you eventually, like, get so big that you kind of, like, create the all-star game.
Yeah.
You know, like Blizzard did, where Blizzard eventually was like, here's Heroes of the Storm, where it's all of our notable characters from all of our different games. And you have all of these things underneath your company's umbrella that you can bring together. And, League is pretty much doing that with their fighting game. It's just going to be League characters in a fighting game.
Yep. Whichever ones pull the best with the...
testing our audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's the question I have, is that this is what's interesting to me. When you have something where you have multiple things creating narratives at the same time, and then you pull from the narratives being created to each other. So, like, I'm waiting for League of Legends to have that character they add that exists in another game. So, like, when they have, like, their shooter... Well, it won't be their shooter, because that's not in the Runeterra universe, which is their official universe. That's the only game I think they're making outside of the Runeterra universe is the shooter.
I didn't know that. I thought it was all going to be with him.
No, I think that's the one that they're not going to have.
Okay.
But, like, something in one of their expanded games having an original character and then them being like, oh, let's put that in League of Legends. I'm waiting for that to happen. Because I wanted them to do that with Dota. Dota has expanded lore in certain things like comics and stuff. And I wanted them to bring in... I'm trying to remember. Rix was the character from Artifact that I liked, that he was like a guerrilla warfare master kind of character. He was fighting in a rebellion, and the idea of him being brought into the game was cool to me, but they haven't done that. All the characters they've added to Dota have pretty much been from the mod, or just original characters. And I'm trying to think of a franchise that has done that, where they've brought in characters from, like, multiple, like, crossed over characters from games. I mean, you have fighting game crossovers. Those aren't usually from the same IP, though.
No, usually those are, like, a licensed game kind of thing, in the sense of, like, a licensor asks the developer to make a game, and then they bring their own stuff to the table, like you see with all the Capcom mashup games, the Capcom versus SNK, or maybe it was titled the other way around, but Marvel versus Capcom, of course.
I think it was Capcom versus SNK.
I don't know why I thought that one SNK came first, but
probably because Marvel versus Capcom.
Right. Yeah, and then Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
Oh yeah.
The one that I know that game's in licensing hell now because the license ran out, and so your only way to track down that game is like through they aren't printing anymore, so you need to find those copies of that Wii fighting game.
You know what license started going hard recently and just like throwing its license around to other people to use is Ruby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Rooster Teeth series, because first they were like, okay, Arc Systems, you're making a mashup fighting game for all of your fighting games that you have. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Actually, no, isn't it? It's literally...
Guilty Gear is the only not represented series in Crosstag.
Yeah. That's their license alone. Because but they're also including like Under Night in there.
They have Under Night, they have Arcana Hearts, they have Akatsuki Blitzkampf, they have some other Wii fighting games. Ruby, of course, yeah. Well, Ruby I know because like Monty always cites like Blaze Blue, or always cited that like Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear, those sort of fighting games were a huge inspiration to him. So I'm sure the people at Rooster Teeth wanted to do that, and I'm not sure who came with the opportunity first, whether it was Arc System asking them or... Yeah. But I love it a lot because I think all the other characters use their old sprites from the old game pretty much. But the Ruby ones have like a way higher sprite fidelity, and like they just have a really good look to them that marries the Arxis style sprite work with the original Ruby character designs. That looks really well.
So, and what's interesting to me is that Ruby also showed up in a place I did not expect it in any way. They have Ruby skins for Smite. Yep.
Really?
Yep. It was so weird. All I saw was just Ruby skins for Smite, where I'm like, okay, I guess, yeah, go for it.
Rooster
I mean,
Teeth and high res.
they've been adding like anime references inside of Smite for a while, so the licensing that I'm surprised I haven't seen expand into like a series, like a TV series, is probably Fortnite.
I feel like it has to be inevitable, right?
That should happen.
That should happen, yeah, because like with the craze of how popular that series is, especially because like it's got, I guess, do they use the Loot Llama as like a mascot for it?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like such a dominant mascot thing that they like frequently use it. I mostly I just see like Fortnite characters are recognizable because they're Fortnite characters.
Yeah.
Like it has an art style.
Though to be fair, like with especially like younger kids, because that was what was kind of propelling Fortnite so much. I've heard that it's dropping off already.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like to be fair, I have noticed actually that League of Legends has been jumping back up again in its viewership on Twitch.
Twitch, yeah.
So I think that it's really just that League is becoming a franchise that's expanding out, and there's a lot of hype for that. And
I wonder if Pokemon is encroaching on
I would
Fortnite
bet.
at all since the release of Pokemon. Like
maybe
Sword and Shield became a much bigger like streaming game.
Yeah. How have we not talked about Pokemon yet?
Yeah.
Pokemon's like because the licensing is a bit different because Pokemon is a multimedia franchise from the ground up where they have all these things fire simultaneously. It's not like they make a Pokemon movie and then they make a game to tie it in. Everything else is tie-ins for the games.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's the games first.
Right.
And it was always like that too. I don't think Pokemon originally created with the anticipation of making a TV series off of it?
So they wanted it to be a franchise as soon as they saw it was popular.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was originally a game, but its a North American release was always intended as a franchise, which is why we have the Pokemania phenomenon.
Yeah.
But at first it was just the games came out of Japan. They were gangbuster success that they hadn't foresaw. They were launching the anime and stuff, and then they delayed the launch of the anime in non-Japanese audiences, really, to sort of capitalize, so they can attack every market at the same time.
Yeah.
They had the toys, they had figures, the games, of course.
Because that was really in the 90s. That was what jump started. I would probably say that really jump started moving the like Japanese properties to America to become popularized, to become these like multimedia franchises.
As far as mainstream,
absolutely.
I would count Nintendo sort of doing that beforehand, anyways, with just how integral, the NES and Nintendo systems were, and you even saw that on the Sega front. Though Sega was a joint European-Japanese effort, but absolutely, when Pokemon did it, that sort of like cemented the mind share.
Especially as like a video game and like anime combination thing, because like with Nintendo it wasn't a lot of like TV, it was mostly just games. And then like with
the TV came from American parts,
the
Mario Brothers show, and again our aforementioned Donkey Kong Country show came from the French side.
And then we have Digimon. Was Digimon created to mimic Pokemon, or was it?
Digimon was basically created as like a Tamagotchi like type of thing.
Okay.
By Bandai.
And then did they move it towards being more similar to Pokemon and not a Tamagotchi anymore because of the popularity of Pokemon?
Oh, I think for sure like the Pokemon influence definitely changed how they were expanding.
Yeah, because it started off as like a pet simulator.
Yeah, that was a straight like sort of Tamagotchi.
Yeah, and then it moved into being more of like an RPG. Where they're like, oh shit, this is what people really, really like. And then of course like Monster Rancher existed for a while. I don't know if that still exists in Japan. I have no idea.
They're about to relaunch it. I forget if it's out now, or if they just announced that they're remaking the first one on the Switch.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, the only one I played was Monster Rancher 4 on the PlayStation 2, which I loved a lot when I was a kid.
I think you see the equivalent sort of franchise now with, in Japan, there's Yokai Watch is the big phenomenon. Yeah. Level 5's series, which they've tried to make branch into American audiences in a kind of Pokemania type of way,
and
but
it just hasn't worked.
No, I see, like, if I'm ever in like a random Hot Topic or FYE, you see the every so often like Yokai Watch piece of merch, but it's not really the same. It's like lightning in a bottle. You can't really capture it again after you caught it the first time.
Yeah, Pokemon was the really big one, and it's still going strong. Obviously, I mean,
it's still I believe people mathed it as like the biggest grossing like media franchise like of all time.
Yeah, and that's pretty crazy. I mean, we just got Detective Pikachu, which was actually a surprisingly like intriguing film to watch. Like, it wasn't really it wasn't really what you'd expect from like a live action Pokemon movie.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much, because I'm not familiar with the game that it's based off, how much of a straight adaptation it was or not. But it was definitely an enjoyable, like one of the first only good enjoyable video game movies. I
assume that was created with a Western. That was a Western created film, right?
It made in the West, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like a Japanese film that was moved over.
No.
I assume because literally all of the actors were all native English speaking people and like didn't.
It was Justice Smith.
yeah, pretty much.
Not the one guy.
The police officer.
Yeah. He's a famous guy, and why can't I think of his name? Is it Ken something?
Ken Watanabe.
Yes.
Yeah, Ken Watanabe. Yeah. Franchises is like that's what everybody in business wants their video game to become.
They're also easy. Just going back to the licensed games thing, because one company that did the licensed games are part of their offerings, and they're definitely their lowest quality offerings, is Platinum Games, who shortly after like the Bayonetta section of their history, they put out a lot of games during the year, but and most of them were just licensed games that they probably had their like B and C teams work on, that were good relative to other licensed games, but compared to other Platinum games, they weren't so good, which include the Legend of Korra game, a Transformers game that I can't remember the subtitle on, where they were pretty much every sort of Platinum game that you sort of hope to expect. They're character action games that have some pretty deep physics, but compared to other Platinum games that their A-teams were making, like Bayonetta and like Nier Automata, those sorts of things, they were really stiff and less lifelike. There was a lot less polish on these games.
A lot less time put into them.
They're the first time I thought in this modern generation back to like the licensed game era.
Yeah.
Especially because I remember a lot of bad Avatar licensed games at THQ.
Absolutely.
The Inferno was the very first self-titled one I remember.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Was there...
Oh, Jimmy Neutron! I forgot the Jimmy Neutron games I played as a kid.
Was there a James Cameron Avatar game?
There was.
There probably was.
I feel like there was.
Was it on Xbox and stuff?
I believe I played it at 360.
Yeah. It probably sucked.
It was not great, from my memory.
That's what I assume.
What were you even doing that game? Were you just acting out the beats from the plot?
Well, the strange thing was that you had the option of either playing as the Na'vi or as the humans.
Yeah.
And in which case you're playing as the humans and you're just decimating a planet. And that's the game. And then the Na'vi, obviously, you're fighting humans.
What if BioWare?
You can play as the colonialist.
What if it was BioWare and just the human Na'vi sucks?
Well, that makes me think of Greedfall, the game that came out this year. That's literally just like you're just the colonialist coming to this island. But that one's like very reminiscent of like older BioWare stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard very mixed things on it specifically, but it has nothing to do with the franchise or anything. And I'm trying to think, like, I do like that Gears is going into, like, people talked about for forever, they talked about having a Gears RTS, which Halo did. They had Halo Wars, which actually, surprisingly, I don't know, I think the company that worked on Halo Wars 1 was the Age of Empires company, which went under. And then the company that worked on Halo Wars 2 was Creative Assembly, which is the Total War company. And I watched a thing recently talking about how they built the AI for that game. And they built the AI, because what a lot of strategy games do is they have it so that you cheat. Or not you cheat, the enemy cheats. They get resources faster, or like they do anything faster than is possible in the game. Mm-hmm. But what Creative Assembly did with that one is they created an AI using like professional players and like having them, just kind of help them with that, where the AI just made optimal choices. It wasn't cheating. It didn't know where you were or anything. It only had the knowledge that you would have in its situation. Mm-hmm. And they focused really hard on that. So that was really cool to hear about, because I heard nothing about Halo Wars 2.
Yeah.
I knew it existed, and that was it.
Yeah, it
Like-
just dropped off once it came out.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where that's an expansion of the Halo universe. It's like the only other game series that's ever existed for Halo outside of like just the mainline shooter series.
Yeah.
I know back in the day of the next Halo killer, when that was like a big thing where there was
Yeah.
people trying to jump into the
What was
shooter
gonna take
market.
it down, yeah.
Yeah, just like you have like the World of Warcraft killer where it's like all these things trying to become the next big MMO. And then like even when Apex Legends came out, it was like this is the Fortnite killer.
Yeah.
But it's that dumb thing, and I remember during that time you had stuff like Star Wars had Republic Commandos, which was like advertised as like the Halo killer, which is weird because it wasn't anything like Halo. It was this. It was marketed that way, but it was like a tactical squad-based shooter.
Right.
And it was very narrative driven. It was a good game. It was just like really weird how they marketed it. And the same thing happened when they did Fire Warrior game, which is like a Warhammer universe thing, where it's the only like 40k shooter they've had in a long time, until like recently when they made Inquisition, I think it's called. But it was this weird, janky, like shooting game that was supposed to be like the Halo killer, but it was just a Warhammer themed shooter that was really bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of IPs tried to force themselves to try and become that. I mean, like a lot of people thought that Knights of the Old Republic's MMO was going to be like, oh, it's like the new Star Wars MMO. It's going to be the Warcraft killer, and then it just didn't.
We know how that went.
Yeah, we know how that went.
Was Space Marine ever advertised as a Halo killer?
No.
Because I remember people in high school talked about it as if it were. Like, the people who I knew that were, like, the only people I knew in high school that were into, like, Warhammer, saw the Space Marine game come out, and they're just like, forget Halo, this is all I'm gonna play.
Forget Halo. I recognize this property.
Yeah.
So Space Marine is boasted by a lot of people to be a pretty good game. I actually never played it, but it was a third-person action game.
Yeah.
It was a third-person shooter, but it was also an action game because a lot of what Warhammer is the ridiculousness of, you know, a dude in tank with a sword in his hand, sitting on the top of it, going, "Bring me closer so I can cut them with my sword." Just like this dumbness of, I have a chainsaw sword, and I'm gonna run up and like hit you with it because I'm an unstoppable juggernaut in armor. So they emphasized that with it, so it wasn't really like as hardcore on the shooter element.
Yeah.
And I hear a couple people boast about the multiplayer being pretty good, actually. And there's been tons, like, there was a Lord of the Rings MMO, there was been multiple Star Wars MMOs, there's been multiple Warhammer MMOs, there's been an MMO, like, back when that craze happened, and that's the thing, is that a lot of IPs try to jump on the craze thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of licensed gaming.
Yeah, a lot of licensed gaming is like, what's the craze? So you had the platformer boom and craze, shooters with all the quote-unquote Halo killers, all the Warcraft killers with the MMOs. I haven't seen really a lot of it with the Battle Royale format.
It's a lot harder to make, I feel. And it's so new. Like, nowadays, licensed games, I think you were right when you said it earlier, they mostly go straight to mobile. Because that's where people want to see, like, their licenses. Like, you'll scroll through the App Store, just see an ad for a property you remember, and be like, maybe I'll give this free game
and
a
you
shot.
don't really have to, like, put a ton of work into a mobile game because people don't expect that much from it. It's just a time waster on their phone.
Right.
As opposed to, like, something that they're doing this because they have nothing better to do at that time, in their mind. And then, like, with a game on a console, you have to, like, sit down, take time out of your day to play this game.
And the added benefit even is it's so much easier to, like, blast it out on social media advertisements for a mobile game.
Yeah.
You just tap it, download it on your phone, and it's right there. And
Yeah.
And it also gets everywhere with, like, the sponsored ads on social media.
I mean, Jesus, I cannot stop seeing ads for Raid Shadow Legends.
Right.
Oh, yeah, especially with the sponsorship deals that they get through YouTubers.
A million of them.
It's all
a
over
million. Everybody was advertising it. And it was so funny. I think it was like, there was like somebody had sent out like the layout that Raid Shadow Legends gives everybody to their advertisers, hey, describe it like this, and like the list of like all the things.
Stuff,
And then immediately I just saw like a JonTron video with an introduction that was the exact format of that, and I was like, that makes sense. It was just, it's funny, but I think the last big boom of popularity that IPs tried to jump on for a little bit at least was MOBAs. There was a brief time where a lot of like IPs were trying to jump on the MOBA train. I mean, you had like, especially superheroes. You had like the
that DC
one.
Yeah.
There was a Lord of the Rings MOBA I don't know if you even knew that existed.
I've heard of it.
Yep, it existed. And you had like even you could technically call it an IP. You had Smite, which was just taking the IPs of existing faiths and mythologies and putting that in a game.
Yeah.
Historical mythology. Yeah. So you have those being thrown in there. And then you have popular series that adapt IPs. So like you talked earlier about what was it? The Arc Systems. They went to them because they're famous for fighting games, and they're like, make a Dragon Ball Z fighting game. So it's an Arc Systems Dragon Ball Z fighting game. And then like Persona did the same thing, where they're like, take our IP, make a fighting game out of it, because you're like probably, other than like what Capcom and Namco, like the most relevant fighting game developer in Japan.
Yeah.
And then you have stuff like again, Total Warhammer was just, they went to the Total War developers and they're like, hey, you make all of these historical games, make a fantasy one with our universe. And even Vermintide was a Warhammer fantasy game, but Left 4 Dead pretty much. Mm-hmm. Although that was like more of an idea. That was more along the lines of how Dead Space was made, where Dead Space was like, what if we did Resident Evil 4 in space? And then that one was, what if we did Left 4 Dead in fantasy? So
something you reminded me of that I hadn't even considered in the licensed game discussion. You talk about good licensed fighting games with Arxis, but what about in the SNES Genesis generation, all the super bad
there was a lot of
licensed fighting games
that
were all really bad Mortal Kombat clones, where they tried to look like Mortal Kombat, but they mechanically did not play.
Well, and a lot of those were original ideas, but they were just original ideas trying to copy Mortal Kombat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have stuff like
what about Shaq Fu?
Shaq Fu!
Oh god. Yeah.
The license in that case is just Shaq's existence. It's an IP.
Yeah.
It did get a sequel. I forgot to actually check out how well the sequel did. I just remember seeing it in stores, and they had a Barack Obama DLC. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, that's the interesting thing about the internet age, is that now we have stuff where like if something gets memed hard enough, it will create an IP.
Hell for Bikini Bottom HD.
Andrew Yang has a fighting game coming out. I kid you not.
Does he actually?
Yes.
That's really funny. I know that there's like a moving emoji of him or something that some people have made. Like, it's to the point where people will take like current existing. I mean, we're to the point where now IPs are taking celebrities in. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at what Death Stranding had a bunch of like actual actors play essentially themselves.
Yeah.
Be actors in a video game.
Yeah.
And not just do voices. And then you have something like Cyberpunk?
Yep.
Cyberpunk was like
John Wick.
John Wick, yeah. Well, it's not. Yeah, Cyberpunk doesn't have John Wick in it, but
I know.
And Fortnite has been doing that. They had Thanos, they had John Wick in it. It's like
they're throwing all the lightsabers with.
That's been their strategy. I feel like that's what they're doing instead of like them making like a Fortnite TV show or something. Because like Epic doesn't really have a marketing wing ready to hire animators to make this like Fortnite thing, but they do have the power to come to like someone to a license holder and be like, do you want to work with Fortnite?
Yeah.
It's free money for you,
it's
basically.
Fortnite,
they had just this past weekend, they had the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. They showed a trailer in game, and they had the J.J. Abrams and some other crew member in game, like playing with you.
And that's the ad. That's the thing, is that now gaming is getting so big that like you're seeing product placement in video game. It's like there's events and updates for specific things, like in Fortnite, and it just makes me think of like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where that movie was just a commercial.
Oh yeah.
It's just a commercial. But video games can be fun, while movies that suck but our product placements aren't really that interesting.
It could be fun sometimes. It depends on the exact type of bad they achieve.
Yeah, that's true. That's entirely true. And like, if things get shared around and loved enough, people just kind of go, oh, people want that, and then they just do it.
Yep.
I mean, there's stuff like, I'm surprised. There's a lot of dead memes. I'm not sure if people like tried to make games off of them or anything. But then you have like games that are literally created as a joke, like Flash games. Mm-hmm. It immediately brings back to like Kanye West's Zone.
Yes.
What's the Don't Let Me Into My Zone game?
Or Kanye Quest.
Kanye Quest,
Kanye Quest is the highlight.
Jeez. I think the thing that we should finish off with is, let's talk about Mugen. Let's talk about just taking icons and just putting them in this stupid fighting game.
I thought you were going to go off what I was thinking of, because something that I was reminded of randomly over the course of this podcast. Remember Toontown?
Oh God!
no.
We talked about the MMO stuff, but that was its own universe, right? I don't think that ever went into like
It
Disney.
took like didn't it take like a Looney Tune?
I was
It definitely
yeah,
Looney
there
Tunes
were
sort of
Looney
aesthetic. I
there
thought
were
it
Looney
had
Tunes
characters
I
too.
could've
Oh, were
sworn.
there?
Maybe.
I never touched it.
Well, Cartoon Network had its own one too that I can't remember the name of either.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a fan-made Ed, Edd n Eddy MMO.
Oh, was it the kids that are too cool? Was it Too Cool for School or whatever?
I think so.
The
Yeah.
Cartoon Network game. I'm pretty sure they had their original characters on there.
Yeah,
too.
that was back when like they were super late to the party, and they're like, let's create MMOs. And I remember
They were like browser MMOs too.
Yeah,
Like,
it was so
Exactly.
cheap. Like literally everything was 2D.
And then there was a brief phase where they were trying to make a bunch of Facebook games for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh,
you're
everybody's on
right.
Facebook.
I did not even think of
You
that.
didn't even think
yeah.
of Farmville and all
I
those
played.
games?
So the only one of those I ever played was. I think they had Firaxis to make a Civ game in the style of like a Farmville type of thing. I played
God.
it for a bit because I'm like, oh, this is Civ.
Oh, that's Civ, yeah.
It
Jesus.
was awful. But sorry to derail you. Back to the Mugen thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just mentioned that because I think it's funny. Like,
Omega Ronald McDonald.
yeah, I think Mugen at this point, I don't think you can play it anymore, can you? I think Salty Bet exists, which is like essentially you just kind of watch the fighters fight and you don't actually get to play.
Yeah, Mugen's just an emulator.
Yeah.
So you can just download Mugen. You just
fair
download
enough,
the. I never knew how these characters and stuff get made if they just upload them directly into some game or
I don't
whatever.
know. I just know it exists and it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find video. Like, the classic one was, there was so many YouTube videos of Peter Griffin versus Homer Simpson.
Yep.
Where everybody's like, oh, it's the ultimate fight.
Or
It's
all
like,
of the
alright.
Waluigi in his own fighting game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't need Smash.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about last time how, like, developing games is becoming progressively easier, especially, like, because there's a lot of, like, people who like the retro aesthetic and they want to see stuff that isn't, like, particularly out there and ridiculous with its visuals. And so, like, there's a lot of people who started off doing Flash games that are moving into, like, just creating their own full games.
Yeah.
So...
You get the Toby Foxes going from working on Homestuck to literally being in Japan working with Game Freak and the Pokemon Company to make the soundtrack to Little Town Hero, and then also have a song in Pokemon as a guest composer.
And what with Steam not giving a shit about, like, anything, it's pretty much like there's so many porn games on Steam now where, like, I think there's a setting where you can make it so that, like, anything that's like a quote unquote like
They probably have a
erotic
filter or
game,
something, yeah.
there's like a filter you can turn off, but I haven't found that filter. So occasionally I'm just like, what's on sale right now? And then there's like usually something with an anime girl on it most of the time, and generally I'm just like, I'm sure a very small team of people made this game, and it's just literally like, we can make this for quick cash.
Yep.
But
That's it. Even like the worst type of licensed games that you see nowadays is people uploading not licenses. They uploading things that look like knockoff license work onto asset stores like Unity's and Unreal's, and people just make a game they purchase it, make a game from it, upload it to Steam, and you can probably sell it for like a couple months before some
legal team.
automated type, legal team type of like looks into it and sends a cease and desist or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not very well regulated, so
There's
you
a
can
ton
get away
of-
with that for a
There's
while.
a ton of Chinese knockoff games all over everything. I mean, like, that was an issue that existed back when, like, you had the brief Overwatch phase. This isn't related to IPs and, like, related to, like,
Licenses.
franchises. But we can talk about the existence of Hi-Rez. And how Hi-Rez has been, like, a genre chaser company for a long time.
Hi-Res is a Smite studio, right?
Yeah.
Yes. They started off with, like, a pretty interesting idea with, like, Tribes, and, like, they might have had a game before Tribes. But, they started off with that interesting idea, and a lot of people really liked it. And then it was like, the MOBA craze came around, and they're like, Smite. And then they just, fuck Tribes. Smite. And they just focused on Smite. And then, like, as soon as the MOBA craze started ending, and they're like, the Battle Royale craze, or, no, it was the Overwatch.
Yeah,
Came
the
around
hero
there.
shooter.
And, like, I know that Paladins was being worked on around the same time as Overwatch, but I think they made a huge design change in how it functioned when they saw Overwatch and what Overwatch was in the popularity. Mm-hmm. And I think that because it ended up fully releasing after Overwatch, and that kind of was just Overwatch, and then you have moving into, they took that Paladins and they're like, Battle Royale, well, this is Paladins Battle Royale. And they just made that, and they probably have an auto battler or something. I haven't paid attention to what they've been doing recently, but they've kind of, and there are companies that do that, and then there's the unfortunate issue of when you have a craze, when you have like a popular thing, everybody thinks everybody's trying to copy it, so anything that seems similar to it, they'll disregard.
Yeah.
And that happens, unfortunately. There's been some great games that I've loved that have just been like, people didn't care about them because they thought that they were just like a clone of something. That was a huge Overwatch issue for a while. There were so many games everybody disregarded because they're like, oh, it's just an Overwatch clone. And it's like, no, not really. But that sometimes just comes to be an issue with advertising.
Yeah, I feel like in summation, the formula for any licensed game is have like some property and then have some craze, and you add the two together, and boom, you get and give it to a small team to work on for a small amount of time to get either before the movie or after the movie or whatever, sometime around the movie, and that's the formula for a licensed game. Because you see that with all the ones we can think of from our childhood was just chasing the childhood craze of like, you know, platformer collectathon type of things, and then you saw it get to like shooters when like Call of Duty and stuff got popular, and then back to like third-person action games or something around the time of like Uncharted getting popular, and now, like you said, with like MOBAs and battle royales and MMOs, like
the push for competitive gaming.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks to you two for coming out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate talking to both of you, and I enjoyed talking about the hellscape that is advertising series through video games. And
sometimes you can get gems, but
I mean, like I said, that, you know, there's franchises that are great, and then there's, you know, the Wall-E video game, and like just different games that are just a movie came out. Here's a game.
You need like a good dev team with drive behind it to make something like that if they really want to.
Other than I want to make money.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like capitalism is bad or something.
You could say so. So, anyways, is there anything that you'd like to send people towards for you, Nate? Do you have any plugs or anything?
Make me a little plug real quick.
Okay.
Most of my social media is under what my username is on most internet things at this point. It's Captain Rickshaw. That's CPT space Rickshaw spelled out the way that it is. You can follow me Twitter, Instagram. Don't add me on Facebook. But,
I don't think they'll find you on Facebook. Captain Rickshaw.
Yeah, I know. There might be some links, but no, that's about it. I'm not really started on my YouTube channel yet, so I'm not going to plug that just yet. It's not ready, but
gotcha. I'll probably retweet you when you start doing that stuff.
Yeah, be on the lookout.
Yeah. So, to all our listeners, thanks for coming out tonight. If you're not sub to our YouTube channel or, you know, following us on Twitter, that would help us out a lot. And we're going to be getting all of our stuff up on Spotify soon, so you could go check us out there too. So we've had a great time with this podcast today, and I hope everybody has a great week. Goodbye.